and there's a perfection that one has to find. And
Yes.
the thrust of your book seems to me that what you're go to the inside to find what you want to find on the outside. Is that a fair assessment? That look within to find the beauty is expressed inside out always anyway.
Yes. And it's about a new, and that's what I wanted the book to be. I wanted the book to be a new, refreshing way to approach how we see ourselves and how we see others. And I really wanted this to be a self-help book as well, on how we can turn these inner and outer self into, frankly, a powerful asset that women can unleash to succeeding in every facet of their life, personally, socially, and professionally. So I think the book really invite them to rediscover, and for some of them to discover, but for many of them to rediscover, as you pointed out, how truly beautiful they are, because we lost track of what real beauty is. And I think our society today is obsessed with beauty, no doubt, but it's obsessed with the wrong type of beauty, the one that's always the easiest to spot. It's the physical side. And we all know what that led to generate, generations of women who've had to compare themselves to these very unhealthy standards of beauty that we see on billboards, on televisions, on magazines. And they're comparing themselves to these unattainable standards of beauty and lead them to low self-esteem and low confidence. There's a couple of data points that I found interesting and I share in the book. Did you know that the U.S. has 5% of the world population, and yet we're exposed to 40% of all advertising in the world? So
I know.
Nowhere else are people likely to believe that their appearance defines them than in this country. And just 3 minutes, only 3 minutes, looking at a fashion magazine makes 70% of women of all ages either depressed, guilty, or shameful.
Yeah. And all right, so listen, there's an analogy for this in writing. A lot of most of my audience are writers, but not all, but a lot of them are. And I teach a lot of writing. And here's the main thing I teach, Bruno. I mean, again and again and again. When I go out and I teach, craft and contrast and narrative tension and so on. But the main thing I'm teaching, again and again and again, is the same thing I have to remember every time I sit down to write, every single morning, is to not think about what other people think of me. That my attention has to be within me and never wondering about what others think of me. And I think that when women look at those magazines, what they're doing is comparing themselves to someone else. And the moment we do that, it's over. The moment we compare ourselves, we have left all our power, left all our love, left all our safety, left everything that we value, because we're comparing ourselves to something outside of ourselves. And everything we want, Bruno, as you probably know, everything you've attained, everything you've achieved has come from straight within you. It's come from within you. If you go looking outside yourself, you won't find it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I totally appreciate what you're saying, because that's something that I felt also very strongly as I interviewed those women. There was a feeling that they had, and I think a lot of people, you'll find that interesting. A lot of people I spoke to, and I conducted a lot of interviews, and I invited a number of subject matter experts in the field of nutrition and communication, reputation management, brand building, fitness, experts in their own field, to come in and really provide their perspective on this topic. But a lot of things what I discovered through those is that we all understand that there's a better way. We all understand there's a better way, which is about doing what you just suggested, which is really having our own definition, right? We're getting confidence in oneself, realizing we're amazingly beautiful, but having that own definition for ourselves. But yet we struggle to get there. And I think it has a lot to do with what I mentioned earlier. We're bombarded with messages every day. I think on average we get about 500 ads or commercials a day. So it's part of our pop culture, it's part of our celebrity culture. We see it at every corner of our lives. And so we aspire to better. We can see it. We can see the light on the tunnel, but we can't get there. And met so many women that feel like they're getting a message. They have a vision for what that better way of thinking about beauty is, but they want a guidepost. They want steps on how to get there because they get lost along the way.
Yeah. Well, I think you said something really important. I want to repeat it, which is to have your own definition. And I think that it's so slippery, but take success, for instance, the concept of success, because you were talking about this book actually deals with the question not just of outer beauty and inner beauty, but the question of success and how what we think of as beauty relates to success, and the question of success dogs writers constantly. Have you been a success? Are you enough of a success? But the thing about success is it doesn't exist. There is no finite, definite definition of it. For one person, it's selling 1 million books. For another person, it's selling 1,000 books. For another person, it's winning the National Book Award. For another person, it's just selling one story to a magazine. So so success, this big prize we're all chasing, is totally invented in our imagination to begin with, completely invented, and perhaps women don't think they have the right to say they can define what beauty is, but they have to, because what you find beautiful and what I find beautiful might easily not match up anyway. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely, yeah, that's very true. And you talk about success. If you look at the what's happening in the media. If you look at the Kardashians or the Victoria's Secret fashion show, people are intrigued by beauty, right? And we can suddenly ask ourselves or wonder why the public is so obsessed with beauty. And so I'll ask you the question: is it because people who are beautiful from that side seem to have more money, more success, more fame? And how did we, as a society, lost track of what success is or what real beauty is? Conceptually we all understand it. It's like, but we're unable to walk the talk, right?
Mm-hmm. So say it again. So why do we equate so much? Why do we equate money and happiness with physical beauty? Why do we see some people who are physically beautiful, or who seem to meet the definition, and assume that they have all these other aspects to their life in place as well? Is that your question?
Yeah, and I quote again a number of studies I've done, and actually during the course of writing the book, I conducted some research as well, primary research, interviewing men and women and their perspective on that. And I also quoted a number of studies that I've done. There is one that was done by Dove, the Unilever brand, a global study that they did. And one of the data points they realized is half of the women agree that women who are more beautiful have simply greater opportunities in life. We're conditioned to believe that's the case.
Right.
And whether, again, is that mass media, is our celebrity culture that makes us kind of look at this from that perspective, I don't know. I think a lot of advertising contributes to that. Although we are seeing more and more, you may have noticed, Bill, there's a number of places where we see new campaigns like Dove's campaign for real beauty, and a number of other advertisers, Under Armour, that are promoting women and girls as role models, as power figures that kind of perhaps take us away from the traditional way of expressing, success for women, which I think is very healthy. But a lot of people are still wondering, is that pink splashing? I mean, is that just a marketing tactic to appeal to women? Or is that really a change in our culture and in our society? It's a good question.
I do think there is a change. No, I do think there's a change. Look, the most perhaps successful woman in America, or one of the top three, is Oprah Winfrey. And Oprah Winfrey does not have the traditional model-esque appearance. She just doesn't. She's a lovely woman, but she's not going to be. She would never have been cast as a fashion model early in her life, even when she was 22. But she couldn't be more successful. And so the correlation between physical beauty and success, there may be some statistical, but it is in no way an actual obstacle to your ability to have what you want, to go where you want, to be in love, to have a relationship. But every person has to decide that is so. They have to decide for themselves that that's so, because there's a very strong narrative that equates, because we see so many beautiful people, that equates that, and yet it's absolutely not true. It simply isn't true, but it's a story we can tell ourselves, but it's not a true story. There's so many examples.
And Bill, I like to take Oprah as an example, because I actually speak about Oprah as an example in the book of incredibly successful brand building. Oprah is a brand, and she built a brand for herself quite successfully. And so the book is organized, I talk about physical beauty. The book is organized around these concepts of key ingredients for beauty. And I've, based on those interviews and discussions, ventured to provide a new definition of beauty that I think is a lot more fulfilling and a lot more gratifying. And again, the women I interviewed seem to, confirm that. And it's really organized around these four elements. One is the body, and I'm not talking about necessarily looking great, but I'm talking about feeling great. So healthy, strong body. Then the other element I talk about is the mind, and I call it the open and strong mind. And I believe that open-minded mind and our ability to learn, to communicate, to listen is a very important element of beauty. And I talk about how we can go about doing that. And then I talk about the third ingredient, which is the heart. And what I mean by the heart is really confidence building. How do we inspire? How do we lead? How do we affirm? And how do we manage to change? So that's really about confidence building. And we all know that beauty can be somebody walking in a room and commanding presence because of that confidence. They're shining beauty through. And it doesn't have to be about their physical appearance. It's sometimes just about how they actually present themselves to the outside world. And the last ingredient, which I think is equally important, is the one that relates to Oprah, which is brand building, personal brand building, and how we present ourselves to the outside world, how we do that consistently as a very authentic brand and consistent brand. So what people see is what we want them to see about ourselves, because we have a very strong foundation of who we are and what we want to accomplish in our lives, and we want to convey that in the way we interact with them socially, in a private setting, in a public setting, at an event, or frankly in social media, on Facebook, in other places. So those are, for me, the four ingredients of what constitute real beauty. And that's why I love the example you just mentioned of Oprah. I think she's a terrific example of just a very beautiful, magnifique, inside and out, woman.
Yeah, she's got it completely. And I'm so glad that you mentioned brand, and we can sort of end with this note here. So I looked up at one point as I was getting ready to market a book, and I realized as I was talking to my agent that I had a brand of sorts. I had never intended to have one. I hadn't gone out and planned it, but I looked at all my work I did, and I realized that it was all connected. It was all presenting the same message. It was consistent, and all I did, Bruno, was to express what I love, to do what I love, to do it in the most authentic way, to find people I was interested in and talk to them about what interested me most, to just share what I loved with the world in any way possible, how I made my brand. And if beauty is nothing else, it must be the outer expression of love. It must be that. What else could it possibly be but love?
I love the concept of love as a means of expression for beauty. And you mentioned your brand early on. We all are brands. Most women don't know that they're a brand. And that's the first step, is being aware of that. And being a brand, as you pointed out, you pursue your dream, your passion, people you love, the people you were interested in. And that's a wonderful way of being branded. But a lot of people don't know yet their why. What is my life's purpose? And if you don't know that, it's very hard for you to build a brand around how you want the world to see you, how you want to be remembered, and not remembered, after you passed on, but I'm talking about remembered after you leave a room. What impression did you leave on people? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And so we all love brands. But knowing your why, I think connects to love, because we cannot love others, as we all know, unless we love ourselves. And, that's the first step. And it's very hard to love yourself when you're still in these kind of a very unclear stage of your life, when you still haven't really set your goals on something inspiring that, gets you excited to wake up every day. And so I think math is an essential part of, loving oneself and then loving others. And I think all of that, then when you're loved, when you're truly loved, I think you look incredibly beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. What a lovely note on which to end our little conversation. Bruno, so the book is Magnifique Inside and Out. It's available on Kindle right now, and the paperback will be out soon, yes?
At the end of this month, absolutely.
At the end of this month. Excellent. Well, Bruno, I wish you all the luck. Will you be able to travel around a little bit and talk to people about it?
Yes, I'm planning to do so, and I have a number of things already scheduled, including some book signing events. So I'm very excited to get the word out.
Well, that is awesome. I wish you all the luck, Bruno. It sounds like a great project, and it's been just a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Oh, merci, as we said. Bye-bye.
Yes, merci. Thank you.
Merci.
Love. James Joyce said, love, loved, loves to love. It's true. If love and beauty are one of the same, I think that they are. I should say that this is a copyrighted trademark podcast solely owned by the Authors On Air Global Network, LLC, and I want to thank our corporate sponsor, Michael Lowndes, at pmlmedia.com and authormarketinghub.com. Well, until next week, I'm not sure who I'm going to be interviewing next week. I might just be talking to you straight from my heart. I haven't decided yet. Still undecided. But until then, well, you know what it is. You got to do what you love. That's what you got to do. That's why I'm here, because I do what I love. That's what got me here. That's what I'm going to do till I die, if I can. So do what you love. Do what you love. The rest will work itself out.